All right. Actually, I think we're live now. So,
Great.
welcome, Daniel. How you doing?
Very well, Victor. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to join you here and learn how to be a better me. How I wanted to understand what it is that you're doing because I saw you on LinkedIn and on other areas of the community, and I wanted to be able to share the good work that you're doing to help others become better versions of themselves and hear what you're doing here at Coachetta. How do you pronounce it, Coachetta?
That's correct, Coach Etta.
Coachetta. That's coach and your last name, correct?
Absolutely. Spot on. Yeah.
Okay. What is that? What is it that you would like to share? Can you introduce yourself to the community here in Metropolitan?
Okay, great. So my name's Daniel Etta. I'm into coaching, and therefore, like you rightly observed, Coach Etta, coach and last name Etta. So what I do is, let me sort of break down what coaching is. Essentially, working with individuals and organizations to support them through whatever challenges they may have, and in that process, enabling them become better versions of themselves. So it could be issues around for individuals. It could be issues around clarity of purpose, clarity of career choices. It could be issues around imposter syndrome, confidence, attitudinal issues. I must say, behavioral issues. And in the coaching practice, the coach doesn't provide answers. So essentially, in the engagement, what the coach provides is the safe space. The coach is a confidant, is a trusted ally, is a partner, is a support system, is a listening ear. And through the thought-provoking conversations, the client is able to challenge his or her thoughts, experience a paradigm shift, look inwards, reflect more, develop a higher level of self-awareness, and along that process, the client is able to discover answers that have been there all along, just that he or she didn't realize that. So yeah, that's what I do. That's what coaching is about.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe what inspired you to start Coach Etta?
What inspired me? Okay, so I'll tell a little story. Very quick one. In my younger days, early teens, while in school, we had what then was called a guidance counselor. And this was one of the teachers who would typically sit with you, understand your career thoughts, your interest, and guide you towards making the right choices. Now, in addition to that experience or that goal that the teacher had, what they also provided was that safe space, the listening ear, sort of non judgmental conversation. And that resonated with me from way back then. So, of course, I didn't know then what coaching was, but it was something that, stuck in my mind to say, hey, this is something that would be good to do. Right. So, over time, as I got into the professional space, at some point it took like a backseat, but eventually I got into the HR space and I found myself playing that role within the HR community, within the work environment. Of course, it was informal. I was not certified. But a couple of years ago, I took the deliberate decision to say, get into this full time, get all the tools and resources you need, and then to be able to offer this service and support people and organizations. So that's what led me to this space. Then, of course, in terms of the name, so I thought, what would be a good way to caption the business? So different thoughts rang in, but then somewhere along the line, I had some conversations with some friends who helped me narrow down my choices, and then we realized what better way than to tie the service to the name, hence the name Cochetta. So that's the story of
Okay.
how I got to be where I am. Yeah.
And can you talk about a little bit what kind of client profiles you have and the issues that they need help with and that you help to address?
Great. So there are two broad categories I would like to address, the individual clients and the corporate clients. Now, with the corporate clients, it would typically be issues around team effectiveness, team cohesion, and leadership. So leadership would be for, in some instances, is the emerging leaders. In some instances, it's people who are already managers, mid-level, maybe getting them primed for the next level or high potentials
Okay.
within organizations. So those are some of the issues that typically show up from the corporate point of view. With individuals, it's all sorts. Like I said, from career issues, from issues around imposter syndrome. In some experience engagement, it's actually been relationship type issues. Now, the interesting thing is it can be a whole spectrum of issues because, like I said earlier on, the coach doesn't necessarily have to be a subject matter expert on the topic you're bringing forward. What the coach has mastery over is the coaching process, which basically achieves the same aim, whatever the goal. But it's important as well to point out that it's not technical. So, for instance, I would not coach you how to be more skilled in IT, right? Or in coding, for instance, or how to be a better doctor. But if there are behavioral issues that are impeding you from being that better version of yourself in whatever field you operate in, then yes, we can have a coaching conversation around that.
I see. Well, you just addressed something that was, I think, I've been asked several times before because there seems to be a lot of people being coaches and mentors lately. And
Yeah.
people have asked me, well, if a coach is not an expert in the area, how can they coach me well? So you addressed that very nicely about the coaching process and being very effective for the different things you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier.
Thank you.
And
If
so, what
you,
kind of
if you,
issues do your clients address?
sorry.
So I cut you off. Please continue.
Okay, so thanks. I just wanted to make a clarification between mentoring and coaching. What I've found over time is as you engage people, to gauge your understanding of what coaching is about, a good number of people describe what mentorship or mentoring is all about. And I want to just give some clarity about that. Now, in a mentoring relationship, and again, before I get into that, it's important also to note that both interventions have their usefulness, they are both effective, right? So, in a mentoring relationship, it's sort of a hierarchical one. So, you have the mentor who's usually more experienced in whatever subject matter field you're exploring, and quite often also older. So, the mentor provides guidance, support through telling. So this is how I think you should do this. This is how I would have done it if I were you, or in my time, this is how I did this, right? So he or she is providing solutions, and it's a hierarchical one. The difference with the coaching, like I mentioned earlier on, the coach does not tell, but also more importantly, it's a partnership. So the coach owns the process, but the client owns the agenda and owns his or her progress. So coaching works, but not like magic. It's a practical experience. If the client does not apply himself or herself, and is committed and engaged to the journey, which is what coaching really takes you through. It's a journey. If the client doesn't apply himself or herself through that journey, then as much mastery as a coach may have, you not encounter any progress because it's really up to the client. So I just wanted to put that out there.
It's very helpful.
Yeah.
And then I think you touched on it, but I don't know if you can go a little bit deeper in terms of what type of issues do your clients face?
Okay. Let me try to bring a case scenario, of a recent client. Obviously, there's a high level of confidentiality, so I will discuss the case without necessarily exposing who the client is. Now, there were a myriad of issues the client faced. But the primary issue here was a very low level of self awareness. And so, what that led to was the client had a very significantly different version of himself from what others had. And this affected how this client related with his team, with his spouse, with his children, and his key stakeholders. So there was the mindset that, imagine having the mindset that you're perfect in all your ways. So you don't necessarily see your flaws, your blind spots. And these were the things that were showing up most in this client's relationship with his stakeholders and key interactions. So in going through the coaching engagement, one of the things that we dwelt on first of all was working on improving the client's level of self-awareness. And then in so doing, some of these blind spots came to light. And then he realized how much distorted his view of self was so much different from um, the views of others of him, and how that was really impacting relationships and interactions. So it was more for him a journey of introspection, self-reflection, improved self-awareness, and then being deliberate about how to improve relationships, because that was leading to lots of frictions in literally all areas of his life, at work, at home, with friends. And he just couldn't figure out why others couldn't get him. But through this engagement, he came to the realization of what his blind spots were, how others viewed him or saw him, and what changes he needed to make to improve on that relationship. So that's just a case scenario. But like I said, it can be a whole long list of behavioral issues. But what is important is that the client is willing and committed and engaged to the process, to be able to go through the experience and find the solutions that he or she seeks.
Okay, I think you touched on this. The question I had was the goals that your clients might have when they come to you. So I think it's similar to what you were talking about before, but if you can address maybe what is in their mindset, or why would somebody be thinking of coming to Coach Etta?
Well, to be honest, I think everybody does need a coach, and I say so with all sense of respect to the profession. And I even as a coach, I do have a coach that I equally check in with, because it's important to realize that we all have our biases, sometimes unconscious biases. We all have our blind spots, and what the coaching engagement does for the client, first and foremost, for anybody, is have an improved level or create an opportunity for the person to have an increased level of self-awareness. Once you're able to unlock that, a lot of other potentials come into light, right? Sometimes you're not even aware of the immense potentials that you have within you. But the minute you unlock improve the self-awareness, confidence level shoots up, right? Executive presence improves. Sometimes you're going in for a presentation and you have all the butterflies and all of that, which is normal. It's okay to experience that. But when it's time to show up, what do you say to yourself? How do you prep yourself to pick up that confidence, and be the right version of yourself in that space? When it comes to leading your team, what is your leadership style? How does that impact on your team members? What are some of the gaps? What are some of the ways you can lead differently to be able to bring out the best in your team, right? So it's really just about, first of all, creating that safe space for the client, listening to them, and understanding what they are communicating, not just what they are saying, communicating in the sense of what they're saying, what they're not saying vocally, what their body language is, what the facial expressions are, what are the hidden concerns or fears that they have. And you find that once you're able to create that safe space, sometimes that's all people need. Just somebody who's there to listen without judging, without criticizing, just listen uninterruptedly and support them through that journey. And that's what coaching really offers, which is why, I would any day, every day say everyone does need a coach, and the coach would guide you through the process of even sometimes discovering what your real pain points are. Sometimes you get into a
Okay.
conversation with the coach, you're not really clear what it is the concern is. But through the conversation, you suddenly realize that what you thought was the main problem is only just a symptom of the bigger problem. And then you get on through exercises using various tools and all of that to support the client towards solving that.
Excellent. So once you've identified some of the maybe self-sabotaging or limiting aspects of a client,
Sure.
can you share some of the positive changes or achievements that your clients go through or that they experience?
Okay. First and foremost, it's almost always the improved level of self-awareness, and that does a whole lot for the client. From confidence, from improvement in interpersonal relationships, and I mean a whole lot. Now, interestingly, there's a client, I want to just quickly speak about as well. The challenge for this client was, as she initially stated it, work-life balance. There was always so much to do, hardly getting time off, and all of that. So as we explored that challenge, what came to the fore was the challenge for this client was really just the inability to say no, because she was so much into being there for others, to support and help others, which is a good to do. But then she came to the realization that there's a need to have a greater level of self love and create time and space for self, because you can only help to the extent that you're able to. But if you're giving your all to others and none to self, then obviously down the road, it's creating issues for you, right? So the immediate action that came to the fore for this person is learning how to say no. Not because you don't want to help, but you literally and absolutely cannot extend more of your time. Now, what that led her to do was going forward to shift some of the help that ordinarily she would have provided to somebody else or some other platform or resource that could equally provide the required help for the person that needed this without her having to be the one to provide this. So 3 months after our engagement, when we had a follow-up check-in, there was obviously that feedback to say, you know what, these days I actually have more time for myself, especially over the weekends, and the kids are asking what's going on. We see you resting, you're more at home these days, you're hardly on your computer over the weekends, because she's been able to pick up the discipline to create time for herself, right? Without necessarily feeling guilty that she's not supporting or helping as she usually would have felt.
Understood.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, it resonates all too well here. So
I
let
can
me ask you this,
understand.
Daniel. What is what do coaches have coaches?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned that earlier on. I do have a coach, and so for me, the coach serves two purposes. One, to equally just check in with whatever my own concerns are. Now, the fact that we're coaches doesn't mean we naturally have answers to all our own issues. Sometimes our own blind spots, our own limiting beliefs, believe it or not, we do have them, shows up and prevents us from being our best version of selves in our own circumstances. So I use the opportunity to check in with my coach to go through the same conversation and deal with my issues. Secondly, I also use the opportunity to check in with the coach, because this coach of mine is more experienced, to also get additional guidance and support, and develop my skills or sharpen my skills in the coaching practice. So that, from my coach, serves those two purposes for me. And like I said, I recommend each and everyone to find a coach. And I think the best way to understand what coaching is really about is to experience one. As good as I may speak about what coaching is or what it offers, the best way to understand it is to actually experience it.
Okay, and let me ask you this question:
Yeah.
What is what holds people back from actually deciding to use your service? What's your biggest challenge as a business person?
Whew. I think a couple of them. One, it's information on how to reach out for those who need the service and perhaps are not as aware as others as to how to get in touch. I think this platform is a good opportunity to address that gap. In some instance, it's again lack of proper understanding about what coaching is all about. For some, they think, I mean, I have it all figured out, so I don't need a coach. What's the coach going to tell me that I don't already know? So if that's the mindset, then it's unlikely that such a person will be willing to go forward to engage a coach if you think you have it already figured out. For some, it could be financial concerns, depending on each person's situation. For some, it's not wanting to also confront what may emerge. And what I mean by this is, in a recent conversation with a client, the feedback I received from the client was, you went to places that I didn't want to go to, but I know I needed to. So in other words, asking some questions that you knew you had to ask yourself, but you were afraid of what it might reveal and what you may have to confront. Now, but in having this conversation with a coach who is a neutral party, so to say, who's not there to judge you, who's there to support you, it's a different experience. You're willing, the client in this instance was willing to give herself the permission to be vulnerable and open up and face those questions, knowing that there was support to be provided in dealing with whatever challenge were to emerge. So it's different issues for different persons. Awareness, their own stuck in their own mindset about having it all figured out, financial concerns, lack of proper understanding about what coaching really offers and how it can really impact your life. So I would say those are the challenges that are out there. There may be a lot more, but at this point, those are some of the challenges I think are out there with clients or potential clients.
Okay. Well, this is extremely valuable. Here at Metropolitan, we're always trying to add value to the international community. It takes courage to go and move to another country, especially if it's not your mother tongue, and to build a network. And so
Sure.
sometimes I'm a mentor in a couple different entrepreneurship and organizations, and I sometimes struggle because I have not had formal training with being a mentor or a coach. And so this has
Sure.
actually helped elucidate the differences between them. But how can people learn more about Coach Etta and the work you do, or how can people get to know you, more than just with this brief interview?
Okay, great. Before I respond to that, just want to appreciate what you do along with the company in putting out, this information and lots more to the expat community, English-speaking community in Barcelona, and by extension across the world as well. Now, you can get in touch through different opportunities or avenues. Visit the website. It's coachetta.com. Right? You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Daniel Etta. You could also follow our page on LinkedIn, which is Coachetta page, company page. On Instagram, it's Coachetta_Daniel. On Facebook, it's Coachetta. So any of those, and if you would rather send an email, you can reach me on coach.dan.etta@gmail.com. If you want to also, if you get to the website, you would find the Calendly link if you want to schedule a conversation. So through any of those avenues, feel free to get in touch. If somehow you missed this, I'm sure you could, if you do get in touch with Victor, I'm sure he could point you in the right direction.
Okay, well, it's going to be up so people can rewatch it at the time
Great.
that's convenient to them.
Yeah.
We'll put in the details up there.
Okay.
So how to reach you via the website. Really appreciate your insights, and I look forward to seeing you at one of the expat events here, because people really can up their game with a little bit of coaching, and do it with
Absolutely.
Coach Etta.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you so
thank you,
much,
Daniel.
Victor.
Anything else that you would like to address or say?
I think enough said for now, right? Please do reach out to the different platforms and understand more about what we do, what we offer. And of course, if you do have the questions, reach out I'll be more than happy to address them. But other than that, thank you for everybody who's joined in. Thank you, Victor, and your team for having me today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Daniel, so much. We'll be in touch, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Giving you a hug, brother.
Same here, man. Take care then.
Okay. Take care.